briefing for Thursday, the 13th of July. I'm Stephen Ridgway. So Apple has re-released the patches for the zero-day exploits, or well, patches to the vulnerabilities that were being exploited, the ones that were released and then pulled and then released again. So they've actually settled down on version C. So I think yesterday I said expect to see a version B. I guess version B didn't work, so they've gone with version C. It looks as simple as putting the version letter in parentheses as part of the headers meant that a lot of websites weren't recognizing that Safari as being a supported browser. So it looks like adding the into the user agent, the like brackets A got into the user agent string, and that wasn't something that a lot of websites were expecting to see, and therefore rejected the browser. Consequently, problems getting to some very well-known sites. There's no indication as to what they've done, and I haven't had a chance yet to look at how the user agents on any Apple devices that I've got access to are currently being sent out, presented, but fairly certain, given the wallets behind Apple, they will have tested this properly by now. And if they have released it again with version C, you could be fairly confident it will do what it is supposed to do. So if you haven't upgraded, you should have done, but now make sure you're on the right version. If you have upgraded to a previous version, level of patch, go back in and check to see. You should be aiming for iOS 16.5.1 brackets C or macOS 13.4.1 brackets C. SonicWall. SonicWall are recommending that their GSM devices, so Global Management System, firewall management and analytics devices, are upgraded. Systems are, let me see, so the patches should take you to 9.3.3. So if you're on anything lower than that, you should seriously consider upgrading. There are at least 4 vulnerabilities that are rated as critical by SonicWall. They are simple to exploit and don't require authentication, and can give adversaries access to the devices and access to the networks attached to those devices. So SonicWall products are used by over 500,000 business customers and used in over 200 countries. So they're very, very common. It is quite likely that you either got one or somebody who's got one. So spread the word. Make sure that these devices get patched ASAP. Currently, no known proof of concept exploit code out there, which doesn't mean to say that there isn't exploit code out there or that these vulnerabilities aren't being exploited. It just means nobody's posted something on GitHub yet. And here's one in the category of I'm not quite sure what you can do about this, but there are exploitable flaws in QuickBlocks. So the QuickBlocks framework is used to build apps which have got intercom type functionality. They're commonly used actually in intercom systems, door management systems, telemedicine systems. Can deal with voice and video, usual sort of stuff that you would expect in that sort of communications application. There are vulnerabilities then in the QuickBlocks framework, which means that as the moment, it's possible to extract static settings from apps, which gives the attacker the ability to spoof effectively authorized commands to components within a system looking like this. So it's because there's a complex way by which the application ID, authorization key, and authorization secret, and the account key are handled. So the app needs authorization. Well, the app needs to be authorized, but so does the account need to be authorized, and consequently through a method I can't quite follow in the article that I'm reading here on HackRead, but it is possible to extract enough from an application to be able to spoof an authenticated communication. So difficulty, I think, for most people will be finding out whether any of their apps have used QuickBlocks in the background, and equally, if it's a mission critical app, telemedicine, for example, you're not going to be able to rapidly move away from whatever it is the solution that you've rolled out to your patients, for example, easily. So I hope that there will be a fix coming out soon for this, but I think it's one that is worth keeping your eye on if you are using these sorts of tools. And I am unclear about what mitigations you can put in place to deal with this. I think probably the best thing to do is just to make sure that you keep your apps up to date, and hopefully the developers of the apps and the developers of the QuickBlocks framework will rapidly patch this. Although if it's to do with the way that the components authenticate to each other, that may be it is possible. That's easier said than done from an architecture perspective. But be aware, because obviously there's a lot of sensitive information that could be being spread via these things, and we don't want attackers to have access to that stuff. And then finally from me today, Chinese APT has recently cracked Microsoft Outlook emails at 25 government agencies. They've done it via a method by which they can spoof authenticated AD users and obtain access to enterprise email accounts and potentially any sensitive information within. Reason I somehow doubt that there are very many government agencies that listen to this podcast. If there are, very welcome, thank you. If not, don't worry. But it does show that you need to be considering your cloud-hosted information as being as at risk as stuff that you run yourself, if not more at risk. The difficulty is actually getting visibility into what's happening on cloud systems. If you're running your own systems, you can look at everything right down to the networks, the packets on the wires. If they're in the cloud, your visibility is significantly more limited, and depends very much on what your cloud provider gives you access to in the way of logs. And as we all know, SaaS logs or logs themselves aren't one of the best sources of security information. Logs are quite a long way down the chain, as it were, when you're looking at what's really going on. Definitely useful, definitely good information in there, but actually understanding what's happening on the endpoints, servers, laptops, desktops, whatever it may be, network devices, and actually seeing what's flying around on the wire is often a much, much better indication of what's really going on than the logs that may or may not be generated by applications under attack. So, yeah, Microsoft has fixed the particular vulnerability and has contacted all known victims. So no further action is required. But I'm bringing this to your attention because you've got to make good strategic architectural decisions about where you keep sensitive data. I would say, think about it. If you're putting it in the cloud, make sure it's encrypted at rest. You'd be surprised how little is. And so on and so forth. Anyway, that's enough from me for this morning. I hope you have a good day, and I'll speak to you all again.